action.
Okay, so I'm bringing you this report from the website of Raymond Ibrahim with Raymond's ongoing permission, and I will put the link in the description box also so that you can go to his wonderful site. He does sterling work against the persecution of Christians. And it seems to me from the headline that it's quite unfortunate that I forgot my tiny violin, because we're going to, well, you'll see why. Islamic State cites grievances, claims victim status against the slaughtered Christians. Just the headline alone is enough. The Islamic State in Sinai recently executed another Christian on video. In a clip recorded before the execution, the slain Copt Nabil H. Salama, if you have a look, I'll also put the link to the video that I made specifically about Nabil. He was 62 and he confessed to his crime, building the only church in Bir al-Abd in Sinai, a church which was supposedly cooperating with the Egyptian armies and intelligence's war on the Islamic State. Yeah, what a crime anyway, but I don't believe it. Although Salama offered this confession only after being tortured, so therefore it would be inadmissible in any real court other than Sharia, after his front teeth were busted out of his mouth, the charge that Coptic churches are actively and nefariously working to undermine Islamic State by cooperating with their own authorities, I may add. How dare they? Is as widespread among Egypt's Islamists as it is constantly morphing in absurd directions. Thus, in an unrestrained tirade back in 2010, Mohammed Salim Al-Awa, former Secretary General of the International Union for Muslim Scholars, appeared on Al Jazeera and accused the Copts of not cooperating with the Egyptian military, but of stocking arms and ammunition in their churches and monasteries, imported from Israel, no less, if you're not too shy. Sorry. It would be hilarious, quite frankly, if it wasn't so absolutely despicable. So, imported from Israel, the heart of the Coptic cause, and preparing to wage war against the Muslims. He warned that if nothing is done, the country will burn, and incited Muslims to counteract the strength of the Coptic church. 62-year-old Nabil. In reality, all that ever burns are Coptic churches at the hands of Muslims, as when nearly 70 churches were attacked and many destroyed following the ouster of the Muslim Brotherhood's Mohammed Morsi. So this is to say nothing of all the Coptic churches that have been bombed, leaving scores of Christian worshippers, our brothers and sisters, quite frankly, dead by terrorists in Egypt. Egypt, what are you doing about it? So to name just some of the more notable incidents, on Palm Sunday 2017, 2 Coptic churches were bombed. 50 worshippers, 50 Christians killed. On Sunday, December 11th, 2016, a Coptic church was bombed and at least 27 Christians were killed. On New Year's Eve of 2011, another church was, wait for it, bombed, and about 23 Christians were killed. And on Christmas Eve of 2010, 7 Christians were shot dead whilst leaving the church. This is all to counteract some spurious nonsense accusation, allegedly. In fact, they're surely not going by the Quran verse that says, kill them where you find them. The fact is, Muslim terrorists are notorious for offering any number of pretexts, many of which border on the absurd, to justify their cowardly targeting, excuse me, sir, of murdering of Christians in and out of Egypt. The Islamic State cited grievances to justify its grisly slaughter of 21 Christians. You're big enough though. 20 Copts and 1 Ghanaian on the shores of Libya in 2015. An article in Dabiq, the Islamic State's online magazine in English, titled "Revenge for the Muslimat," or Muslim women, persecuted by the Coptic Crusaders of Egypt, claimed that the 21 Christians were slaughtered in revenge for 2 Coptic women who back in 2010, and according to Islamic propaganda, were compelled by Egypt's Coptic Orthodox Church to recant their conversion to Islam and return to Christianity. Indeed, the late Coptic Pope Shenouda III, who was then nearly 90 years old and immobile, was portrayed as a US agent, an abductor and torturer of female Muslim converts, from Christianity, who was stockpiling weapons. Yeah, nobody's saying they're not though. Nobody's saying they're not though. Sure thing. Yeah, whatever you say. An abductor and torturer of female Muslim converts from Christianity who was stockpiling weapons in monasteries and churches with a view to waging war against the Muslims and dividing Egypt to create a Coptic state. The Islamic State also cited the 2010 bombing of Our Lady of Salvation Church in Baghdad as a product of revenge for those same supposedly forced to reconvert back to Christianity women in Egypt. All of a sudden they care about women. Who knew? Then armed jihadis had stormed the Iraqi church. I'm guessing these are not the "some Muslims are nice" that the resident loon was talking about. So then armed jihadis had stormed to the Iraqi church during worship service, opened fire indiscriminately, how disgusting, before detonating their suicide vests, always the act of a coward, which were filled with ball bearings to kill as many people as possible. Nearly 60 Christians, including women, children and babies, and there's a link to pictures which I advise you not to click on, quite frankly, were slaughtered. Nor is this blame the victim strategy limited to Egypt. Speaking 2 days after a series of bombings rocked Sri Lanka on Easter Sunday, you will remember them I hope, 2019, killing 359 people, a junior defence minister said that the attack was in retaliation for the attack against Muslims in Christchurch. What a load of twaddle. And that is where an Australian man who didn't claim Christianity specifically as his own killed around 50 Muslims in 2 mosques in New Zealand. However, the next day, I'm adding to this article now, 200 Nigerian Christians were indiscriminately slaughtered by Islamists, and the mainstream just were all too busy covering Jacinta Ahern with her headscarf on, embarrassing herself. So 2 points give the lie to all such claims of Islamic retaliation due to grievances. And first of these is this: what did the Iraqi Christians of Our Lady Church, or the one decapitated Ghanaian, have to do with the imagined crimes of the Coptic Church? For that matter, what do Christians in the Middle East, Africa and Asia have to do with the secular West? Whenever the latter somehow offends Muslims, whether by publishing cartoons or launching military operations in Afghanistan, Muslims respond by terrorising the Christian minorities in their midst. Again, I will find the verses and I will put them up for you on the screen or in the description box. So what exactly do brown Sri Lankan Christians celebrating Easter have to do with white terrorists in New Zealand? Moreover, if the Easter Day attack was a form of retaliation, how do we explain the fact that Muslims bomb churches on virtually every Easter, most recently in Indonesia? So, which leads to the second point. Since when did Islamic terrorists that regularly preach hate for the other ever need a reason or an excuse to make the lives of non-Muslims, chief among them Christians, miserable? For instance, since July 2011, Raymond has been compiling monthly Muslim persecution of Christians reports, and I've recorded some of them. In virtually every one of the monthly reports, Muslims bomb, burn or ban churches and generally terrorise Christians. Are we seriously to believe this is all due to Muslim grievances against the disempowered Christian minorities within their midst? Indeed, even in the most recent murder, that of Nabil Salama, the Copt in Sinai, his murderers, perhaps inadvertently, let escape the truth behind their animus. In his execution video, Salama appears on his knees with 3 men holding rifles standing behind him. I used that screen grab as that picture as the screen grab, for my for the video that concentrated on Nabil. So he's on his knees. He has 3 men behind him doing the salute and holding rifles. The one in the middle launches into a typical jihadi tirade, a diatribe. All praise to Allah, he says, who ordered his slaves, in brackets Muslims, to fight and who assigned humiliation onto the infidels. This latter part is said while the terrorist contemptuously points at the bound and kneeling, basically pensioner, before him, until they pay the jizya while feeling utterly subdued. How can you pay the jizya if you've got a bullet in the back of your head? This, of course, is a paraphrasing of Quran 9:29, which commands Muslims to wage jihad against the people of the book, Christians and Jews, until they pay tribute and feel themselves utterly subdued. Note, the Quran does not cite any grievances whatsoever. against Christians and Jews, except of course for the fact that they are Christians and they are Jews. That is, infidels who reject the authority of Muhammad and are therefore the enemy. Seems legit. In short, all grievances cited by those Muslims who terrorise and murder, I'm going to add, already disenfranchised religious minorities in their midst are false and are meant to somehow legitimise their otherwise cowardly and atrocious deeds. Hear, hear. Thank you very much, Raymond, for that. Watch this space, basically. You don't need an excuse if it's already prescribed for you. A verse that just popped into my mind is, and it is prescribed for you to fight, and you will fight even if you don't want to, because Allah surely knows what's best for you. Spoiler alert, no he doesn't. All right then, anyway, please do pray for Coptic Christians everywhere, in Egypt especially, but they are a very close-knit community from the Copts that I know in London. So yeah, God bless them. I hope they don't have too many sleepless nights. And yeah, I'll be back soon with more horror and persecution. It's not funny, but what can you do? God is in control. Please, please pray for these people as you would if they were your own blood brothers and sisters, mothers and fathers, you know, aunties and uncles. All right, God bless you. Laters.